Welcome to the Startup Grind.
All right, let's dig in. So we're gonna start. We'd like to know a bit more about you, about your background, what you used to do before becoming a brewmaster.
Well, I was studying in Tampere for accounting and finance, and at that time I was thinking that my career would be around money because, well, I was thinking of what's the thing I like, and I like money. So,
You're in a good room then.
yeah, but that was that time when I was young and stupid. I'm still stupid, but yeah, at that time it felt like place to be, studying finance. But actually, one defining moment there was that I joined this beer society. It's like academic beer society, and I was actually forced to be part of that because the society was dying. There was no one to like beer anymore for some reason.
You were forced to be part of a beer society.
Oh, yeah.
You realize
That
that in
happens.
retrospect how.
That is a thing, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah. But that happened. I met one guy there, and he was very enthusiastic in brewing. And as a beer society, we had some budget to brew our own beer and serve it to clueless students of business students, and they poor bastards drank that. So that's how we first got into the brewing part, and that was how it defined me on that moment when I joined in the beer society. I didn't know that back then. I was actually pursuing my career in finance, and I worked as a controller, and the latest paycheck came from the energy company where I worked in portfolio management.
Okay, so very boring jobs.
Well,
In retrospect.
yeah, you can say so.
All right, so you started with numbers. You liked money. At that time, were you just making beer because you were forced, or did you enjoy it?
Well, I didn't actually brew the beer. I was helping. Uh, I'm a muscular guy. I can carry stuff. But actually, my business partner, he was brewing then, and I was a helping hand for him. And well, we didn't get excited about the brewing part, but at the end of the evening, whenever we had this kind of beer evenings where we tested out new beers, and there was always some professional telling about the beer, and I got excited more and more about the beer world. And back then, one of the interesting beers came was the Brewdog. So uh, we started thinking that how come in Finland you can't find craft beer that is exported elsewhere, and still you can find in Finland Danish beers or even Icelandic beers from all over the world. Not that much, but you can still find them, and especially if you go to the Swedish Systembolaget, you can find all kind of beers from all over Finland, but not Finnish craft beer. So it's
Okay. And at what point did it click? When did you say, "Hey, we can really start a business out of this"?
well, we were pretty buzzed back then. It was I don't know actually what was the exact moment. We pondered it quite a while and went back and forth. And actually, we went to our business paths back then, and I was working in the Helsinki Energy, and my business partner was working for Zalando in Berlin. So when he came back from there, he started going through some numbers that could it be possible to start a brewery, and we were actually first thinking of starting something else, some easy business like marketing agency or something, because I was minoring in marketing and he was majoring in that, so it was very natural for us. But we didn't go that way. We started going through in Excel numbers of starting a brewery, and we went through different kind of scenarios that how would it be possible to start it in Finland. And back then we didn't have any idea that we would start a brewery actually in a foreign country. And yeah, quite soon after starting, it came apparent that it is not a very good business to start it in Finland.
Okay,
So-
I've heard this from quite a lot of people. It seems to be like common knowledge now in the microbrewing. What is it that is blocking like the industry here in Finland?
Well, you have very weird market here because most beer you would sell is below 4.7, and that was the first promise we made to ourselves and for people that we are not going to compromise on the beer. And usually beers below 4.7 they are more or less a compromise if you are not doing the style that where it fits, but it's like very rarely the case. So yeah, we wanted to brew without compromises and brew big beers, big IPAs, big imperial stouts, and so on. So we didn't really want to water down our beers. And in Finland, to make living out of craft beer, you notice that most of the craft beer is actually below 4.7, and there are only couple beers that all the craft brewers do that are above that. So you have to brew a lot of below 4.7 beers, and we were not into that.
Okay, so you did your numbers, you started looking into it. Did you decide immediately on Estonia? Did you have some other countries? Why Estonia?
It was a random thought, actually. We have been only like couple times in Estonia
To buy alcohol.
to buy alcohol to consume it, and I was one of those drunk idiots that got to Super Alco and Old Town, and usually with a terrible hangover. I probably ate in some fancy medieval restaurant and paid the expensive taxi.
It's called All of Us Going to Estonia, don't worry.
Yeah, but that was the only experience I had from Estonia, so I didn't know anything about Estonia. And yeah, at some point I pointed out to my business partner Heikki that what if we change these numbers so that we would start a brewery in Estonia. So that was more or less Excel exercise that got real at some point. So it was first a joke just to calculate it, and I think we were doing that for a marketing purpose, that we'll show people that if you started a brewery in Estonia it would be this and this much cheaper and smarter. But then it came clear we should actually start a brewery in Estonia. And back then there were no craft beer whatsoever in Estonia, no market for it. So in all of our calculations it was zero that we would sell there.
So, okay, you got the idea. What was the first physical steps you actually took? I mean, if I imagine I want to go to Estonia and open a brewery, I have no idea where to start. Foreign country.
Well, actually, first steps was that I knew a couple people that have been studying in Estonia. I asked that how much you have to pay for mafia to let me in the business. That was a serious question.
How much was it?
Zero, and I was relieved.
Okay.
But
Tell
it's
me later.
actually Estonia. I feel it's even less corrupted country than in Finland, because here corruption is in very different forms than in Estonia. Estonia, there's zero tolerance to all kind of like fees and stuff that we have here in Finland, because it's like legalized kind of corruption that it's very different. It's not showing in the statistics, but at the same time it's like that. You have to pay officials to come to your brewery, you have to pay officials to get into the Alka system, but they bill you, so it's a very different kind of corruption. But
Yeah.
the first physical part was actually we sent out some messages and asking things that what kind of buildings there would be for us and where should we actually start a brewery. And it was actually quite pleasant surprise for us that Estonia has a good program for startuppers, and it's very open to new businesses. So actually, one guy that was some kind of chief for the program that is luring in new businesses came to Finland, took us fine dining, and gave us a list of numbers that these guys are actually starting breweries as well. You should call them. And these were actually the former Skype CEO and so on. So a lot of interesting people starting breweries, and I didn't have a clue that there would be. So that was the physical part. We actually met a person that wanted us to start a brewery in Estonia, and it was a government official. Well, at that point we started a company here in Finland because we wanted to do some marketing and stuff, and we needed a company for Finland. And the only thing that we got in Finland was one white letter from tax office that you're now liable for your company's tax debt. That was the welcome to business in Finland.
Please come again. Yeah.
And the Estonian version is to take you to fine dining. So it's very different.
So easy choice there.
Yeah.
So what was the initial financial commitment? I mean, I would imagine that it's quite expensive, the initial machinery that you need to get. I mean,
Yeah.
More or less, what do you have to buy, and like what kind of commitment, and how did you finance the beginning of it?
Yeah. Well, actually, this industry is very different from the IT industry. It's actually the opposite, because we are investing in steel and machinery and not in people so much. You need knowledge to brew beer, you need recipes, you need marketing, you need all kind of things, but actually you need to invest more in the physical brewery. And the plan we had would take around 500,000 to start. So yeah.
So did you get equity? We'll get into like all of your equity crowdfunding in a moment.
Yeah.
Did you finance like the really initial steps by yourself, or did you go immediately into equity crowdfunding?
It was quite in the beginning that we did the crowdfunding part. So we started marketing our beer, and we did some gypsy brewing, meaning that we didn't own a brewery, we owned a brand. So we went to a couple other breweries, and we only sold the beer, and we got some money out of it. And we did this in a couple of breweries in Finland, because we got more and more excited because we were actually pretty good in selling beer. So that was a powerful moment when you actually realize that, yeah, people actually buy stuff from me, and there is some demand for it. And that was the first financial step we had. But
did that allow you to buy actually equipment, or was it just more still testing?
For that equipment, we actually did the crowdfunding part.
Okay.
So, but we went to a couple banks. We were asking for financing and stuff. This was actually after the crowdfunding, but the initial response from banks was laughing, and because we are a startup, it's not relevant for us, and come back when you have more numbers from a couple of years. And first answer from bank that has a blue logo,
which shall remain nameless.
Yeah, their person said that, yeah, I don't really like beer. Okay, thank you for the
Great.
meeting. And didn't even go through any of our numbers, and that was because she didn't understand the business in beer. But yeah, it was very different when we went to, this was later, when we went to bank in Estonia. This only a couple of months later, and we were there just to open our bank account, and I just asked randomly that, would you have any kind of financing options for a startup? And he asked, there was the financial manager actually for the whole bank, so he was there and asking what kind of business we do. We have brewery. Oh yeah, brewery. He took a chair and sat down.
I love beer.
I think he did, because he asked what kind of beers you make. Are they ales, lagers? We do ales, okay. how many different kind of beers and how many tanks you have, how many fermenters, and so on, what size of brew house you have, asking questions that are actually relevant. So he has financed breweries before as well.
Okay.
So we got actually, in that same moment he said that, sure, we have something for you. So we'll send your numbers in, we'll take a look at them, and we'll send you our offer. So we get actually, on that moment as a startup, we got a good limit for doing some purchases and stuff. So it was nice.
Okay. Did you try also to contact angel investors?
No, we didn't want to go that way. We wanted to be the masters of our own company, because we are not willing to compromise, and we are not looking for exits. So this is different industry in that sense, that we are building a brand that lasts. There is always, it's possible that we could take an exit at some point when it feels like that, but it's not built for that. So
Yeah. Which then takes us to equity crowdfunding, and specifically in brewing in Finland, there seems to be an interest from investors. Because I looked up Brewery, they had 2 rounds of equity crowdfunding, just under 1 million. Then Panikin, 250k. So clearly people are interested in investing in beer and brewery. But the main difference between these two and you is that they use the platform, investor, and you actually did it without the platform.
well, we have that thing that we can read. So we went through this one major platform for equity crowdfunding here, and we were not thrilled about the fact that it doesn't actually offer anything for us. It is basically offering us a mailing list, and they do some marketing, but they are not taking account of anything. They are not doing paperwork for us. We still are doing the crowdfunding as a company ourselves, but they are the middleman there. They are collecting the money and so on, and paying us when everything is cleared. So and they are taking around something like 8% from
which is-
between. So we raised around a little less than 1 million in total in crowdfunding. That would cost us 80,000. 80,000 in marketing in one platform doesn't sound reasonable for me. So I could buy a lot of Facebook advertising and 100,000 followers with that money.
Yeah, but so I guess usually they would their counter argument would be that they probably take care more of the legal aspect. What did you do in that case?
Yeah, we were thinking of that. We were actually thinking that we want to do it through platform, but in platform you have to register into the platform. You have to create an account. You get some spam mail, and then you need to agree with their terms. And even though it's only for this brewery you would like to invest, so there are a lot of other things going on. And as a brewery, they are not taking care of any stuff that we would need to take care of, and that was the financial and the legal aspect. So we just did some research, actually spent quite a lot of time in doing the research, but we came in the conclusion that it's super easy to do it by yourself.
So what is this process? Because I'd love to know myself. I mean, if I can save 8% on equity crowdfunding.
It's basically everything comes from the law, and the law is pretty straightforward in Finland for crowdfunding. So I think platforms are just exploiting the fact that people don't know shit. So it's like, if you can read, and if you want to read that law, it's very apparent that it's super simple.
Okay. So why are people investing in equity crowdfunding in breweries? Because I've not looked at your terms, but I looked at the ones at Brewery and I looked at the ones at Brewdog, and it becomes very clear that people are not investing for money, because in the first paragraph it always says we do not plan to give any dividends in the next 5 or 10 years. So why are people investing?
Well, actually in our plan we said that we might pay some dividends, because it will be a payday for us as well, because we are not raising base salaries, and that was one promise we made, that we are actually being very reasonable when it comes to our personal salaries. And so far, we've been running this brewery for 2 years, and we started raising salary when brewery actually started production, and we made some money, and we are now raising 1,000 euros a month. So that's very reasonable. So that was one part. We had to throw ourselves into it as well, and be united with our project. So yeah, I don't know. It's more of people wanted to invest in something solid. The people that invested in us, they are in general good with their money. They knew what they were doing, and they were not first timers investing in stuff. There were a couple of first timers probably, but we didn't actually get the beer geeks we were hoping for and aiming for. We were delivering our story as a brewery that doesn't compromise in anything and doing the beers that we love. But that was not the interesting part of us. It was actually the numbers part people fell in love with. So we actually were preaching to very different audience we were thinking of.
So now I'm gonna bring in a name that has to come in. You also say yourself, Brewdog, because I see so many similarities in different things. So let's start from the equity crowdfunding. Brewdog also has a history of raising capital through a crowd without using a platform. Their story is that the first 3 rounds they always got a lot of shit and said it's never going to work. Every analyst laughed at them, so they also got the laughter from the banks. What do you think is different from the investors? Because from the terms that I saw in their sheets, people that invested there just wanted to be part know, of something.
Well, I think Brewdog is more of, it's easier for them because they come in a country where you have a lot more crowd and a lot more crowd that is actually agreeing with the same facts that beers are boring and there should be something else. But I'm not sure. They actually use platform in the sense that at the moment there was no possibilities to do that kind of crowdfunding by yourself. Actually, product crowdfunding is a share issue, and they had to spend a lot of money to get the share issue going, and it's their prospectus is this thick.
Yeah.
And our prospectus is 2 pages, and it's not actually a legal prospectus. It's more of terms of investing in the company.
Okay, so I'm going to get back to Brewdog a bit later on in this. I'd like to focus a bit more about the community that you built, because a great success factor in many equity crowdfunding and crowdfunding campaigns is building a community. How did you build your community?
Well, I think we went very political and very radical from early on. So we got some fans, we got some people around us, and we got a lot of fans that wanted to invest as well. So I think our community is the investors, the fans, and the people who were part of the discussion about this insane alcohol policy we have here in Finland. So I think going straight for the big thing is what got us the kind of fan group and community.
So from what I've seen, you've also been quite aggressive, and well, then let's go back directly to Brewdog. So
yeah,
this is one of the similarities I've seen. You've been quite aggressive in your marketing in a way, we don't really give a shit about the norm, and also your motto, what is it? Serious beer for not so serious people.
Yeah.
How does that reflect in who you are and what you do?
Yeah, it's because beer is very different from wine. If you go to wine tastings and so on, they are super serious about stuff. It's just wine. But that's why we wanted to draw the line that we are not those people that are fancy with their wine glasses and so on. And wanted to draw the line that we are fun. We want to be fun. And we actually failed miserably in being fun. Because if you start talking about finance and stuff, you are not fun. You don't want to be fun when you're talking about people's money. I have your money, haha. Don't work like that. So it's at the moment you had to be very serious, and it's been 1 year in production now, and now we are getting to ease up that we actually see that our people around us, they're okay with us making fun of stuff and so on.
Okay. And about marketing, what is it that's been your key success factors? Like, is there some channels that you would definitely recommend that have worked for you better than other, cost efficient, or just, that have exploded?
Well, when we did our crowdfunding, we used 100 euros in marketing in total. And we did everything pretty much in social media, and I don't know how it succeeded. Could be a lot harder to do right now, but back then it worked very well. We actually created content that worked. We did a lot of blog posts, and we got like 500,000 visitors to our website. That was actually very good because we had our crowdfunding thing going on at the website at the same time. So with one click you could just invest. Okay. So we did very political posts, and people shared those posts and came and read it. And actually the average time they spent on the website was something like 4.5 minutes, which is saying that people spend quite a lot of time at the website reading it through. So not just clicks, but actual visitors.
Okay, so no crazy strategies like content marketing, pure and simple content marketing, writing quality content.
Yeah, it's all about the quality content. You're doing stuff that people like to read, not marketing stuff. We didn't do any marketing stuff, it was content. So we had our channels in Instagram, Twitter, and so on. We were in the beginning we were the biggest brewery in Finland and in Baltics in Twitter, and I think we still are one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest. And that was one fun part for us. We were actually challenging big breweries in debates, and they usually just bailed out when they noticed that this is going in wrong places. And their marketing office just abort.
All right, let's talk about your growth. So you've been growing and expanding exponentially. What is the reason behind this? Like, have you been executing some specific hacks? Did you have a strategy behind it? I mean, it cannot be just a crowd and a good product. There must be something else that you're doing.
Well, we are very active, and we are very open on what we do, and we do weird stuff. So people get excited about stuff that is not done before. So in a way, I think doing weird shit is content. So it's like real life content. We have a biggest barrel aging program in the Nordics, and that is content. People are excited about seeing what kind of beers are coming out from there and so on. So it's more about doing quality content, quality product, and being there for your customers. So we are very active and very reactive in all our social medias, and we don't have a social media strategy, so it's basically a channel to change some thoughts and stuff. I don't know, maybe the growth has come with a thing that we started something different, so it is feeding itself, and we are just going with the flow. It's in most cases we don't have an idea what we're doing.
Okay. Have you seen any changes in how you've been behaving in your social media or in your strategy now that you're growing? You kind of, when you grow, you have more responsibilities.
Yeah.
Has this affected you?
The fact is that because I'm running most of the social media, I don't have time to create content. So I'm actually regretting that all the time, that I would like to create content, but I have to fill this freaking paperwork now, and I have to drive around the country or stuff like that, and I would like to create more content. But that is actually the same thing with all breweries. If you watch their feeds, they post once a month if anything. So would like to share more what's happening inside Sori Brewing, but yeah, I think that's the thing.
Okay. So we know that if we read some fucked up tweets, it's you.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I usually drunk tweet. It's nice.
Okay, so that's his. You see, you didn't know that's a strategy. Being drunk was tweeting.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter which time of the day it is because I'm the industry, so I'm functional alcoholic.
All right. Well, then this takes me naturally to the next point. Fuck ups. Tell me a bit. I mean, for sure, if you're a functional alcoholic, you had some fuck ups. So, any significant ones? What did you learn from them?
Well, it's weird that we haven't fucked up that bad. We haven't lost money by fucking things up.
Or you were too drunk to notice?
Yeah, that could be one. But then someone else has to tell me. But I think we were just clueless in things we were going for. Because one of the first places we were looking for was old Coca-Cola factory. And that was like 40,000 square meters. Okay. It was cheap. But Coca-Cola just moved from Estonia to Lithuania and left their factory there. They had their own wells and stuff, so we were interested. But, well, thank God we didn't go for that. Well, I think the biggest fuck-ups was that we were so clueless in the beginning what we were doing. And I'm just ashamed of that me year ago that was thinking that something like that is actually smart. So yeah, I think not fuck ups but very weird confrontations with people and things and businesses.
Any good lessons learned? Things that you would change and you would do in a different way?
Well, one thing is, let's say you are building a brewery floor. Get a professional. Well, this is actually one of our fuck ups. We were actually thinking of that we can't do this ourselves because it's one of the most expensive things you have in your brewery is the floor, because you need to have very durable floor that can take acids and all kind of stuff like heat and stuff. So we were renewing our floor, and we actually rented a machine that peels off the layer from the concrete floor. We were doing that for 8 hours, and it was only dust everywhere, and the floor was still there. So I have a video about this, and whenever we fuck up, we take a video and share it, because it's the way to learn and never fuck up again. So that in that sense, the machine cost like 50 euros a day. Our time was probably more valuable, but that was valuable lesson that there are things where you can't craft it yourself. And fun thing when the professionals came in, because we obviously went for the cheapest one. So because that's the next thing you go by doing it yourself.
I can do it. Who's gonna do it for 10 euro more?
Yeah. No. So we chose all the materials they are going to use. So they had plan and this. They are professionals. They are planning the thing for us. So I have an idea for you, my friend. We were calculating this stuff, and we were calculating the durabilities of the floor, and you should be able to do it with this material and use this epoxy and that. They were like, "You're giving me advices in my job?" Yeah, can you do it? Okay, we'll do it your way. So they got the floor done. It actually looked great. We were bringing in the tanks that weighed a couple tons, and the first thing we noticed that epoxy is peeling now off when they are bringing the tanks in. So first thing is to call the guy who made the floor, and they actually spent like 2 months in making the floor because it required so much time and effort for them, and they actually lost a lot more money than they gained building the floor. So it was their fuck up. But yeah, they had to rebuild the floor, and they paid it because it was their fuck up, but it was our fuck up to not to get the decent floor in the beginning, which cost us 1 month in time.
Well, it's their fuck up. I mean, they shouldn't listen to you if you're like a functional
Yeah.
alcoholic. I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah,
It's their
that's
mistake.
the thing. Yeah,
Idiots.
yeah. Well,
So how big are you nowadays? Like, can you give me some numbers about your staff? Like, where are you at in which countries?
there are around 10 people, and we are in 10 different countries. And currently, we are selling most beer in Finland because you get a lot of volumes when we have actually one low ABV beer, the out of office that's everywhere pretty much. And but yeah, we are growing in other countries as well. We are starting soon in Russia. It's actually a huge craft beer market in Russia, and everybody thinks that it's a vodka country. Well, it's a vodka country, but they still drink a lot of craft beer. And the latest addition to our family was Paris, so we are now selling in France as well. But we have produced around, can't actually remember how many liters we did last year. It was half a year for us, but around 100,000 liters. And this year we are planning to produce around 300,000 liters. So we are at least doubling our size every year, and going to hire at least 5 more people this year.
Okay. What are your targets? Like, do you want to? I don't know. What are your expectations for this year and from the next few years? Where do you see yourself going as a company?
We hope to get some solid partnerships and get to in more countries, and yeah, it's a hard business in a sense because you have a lot of great breweries all around the world, and it's growing. Only in Finland there are maybe 20 to 30 new breweries coming up this year only. But for them the thing is to be local, and we are just the opposite of local. We are born global, and that's very different for many breweries, and most of the breweries they emphasize the local part.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question now that you're probably going to give me a much different answer from anybody else I've had before. Right? So what's the end of the line? Most people that are sitting in your chair, say, I want to be acquired by somebody. I want to file for an IPO. What's your feelings about that?
Well, I'll give you a story. It was about 4 months ago. This guy came in with a private jet because we are next to an airport. So he came with a private jet from Switzerland, and he had a fancy new Mercedes, and his teeth was white as well,
As white as money.
And it was pretty interesting discussion. It was very brief. He looked around and he was asking that he would like to get our beers to this and this country, and they are partnering with this and these big breweries and so on, and they would have a investment fund that would be interested in our brewery. And I was like, yeah, that we have been around for less than a year now. So, and this is a brewery. You can see those tanks here. That's the maximum amount of beer we are producing right now. You see that guy there? He's the only worker we have. So,
And he's drunk.
obviously. So, and yeah, but he was still serious because they needed a craft beer brand. But we said no, that guy. But it's like, that was pretty much where we had to define that. Are we actually for sale if there comes a time? And our answer is no, because we are actually working in our dream job already. Why would I sell my dream job to anyone? So it's the company is basically for me, and I told the people who invested in us that there are no exits. You can gain value for your shares, and there will be the moment that we are either buying them back or we'll going to list ourselves somewhere, and you get to do some business shares. But
Would you change your answer if some venture capitalist said, okay, this is my offer, multiply by 10?
hell yeah,
Okay.
I can start 5 more breweries.
Okay, so brewery is it, beer it is, choice
Yeah.
of life.
Yeah, but it's like I want to do that thing. There is, of course, I'm not stupid. I come from business, and I understand there is a price for everything, but it should be pretty ridiculous number in order to us to consider it. But it's like we want to brew beer, but it's so attached to the persons doing it, not the actual brewery. So we don't feel that we are betraying anybody if we are selling the brewery with ridiculous amounts of money. Like one craft brewery in the States was just sold with 1 billion. That's ridiculous amount of money for a craft brewery, and it didn't change. It don't change that much of the beer, but it changed the atmosphere where you're working in, because everybody instantly starts hating you. So it's a taboo to say that you are going to do exit with your brewery. That would be a suicide for me to say that. Yeah, of course, our price tag is 7.7 million first bid, but yeah, I wouldn't sell it, and it's so much fun to do, and it's getting easier and easier by time. So I would just like to keep going and make a family business out of it or something,
Okay.
because it's the best thing you can do is create something solid that lasts in time.
But at the same time, you're growing so fast. Have you ever imagined, like, at a certain point you grow so much that you become a direct competitor for Brewdog?
Well, I hope so. So I don't know.
What would happen there? Because, like, both have aggressive marketing, both, don't like any bullshit, and both have great beers.
Well, I don't know. It's the market is so huge that there is so much room for everyone at the moment that when you go to a grocery store here, even you can see hundreds of different labels. So that's the market we have. It doesn't just carry one label. So there is room to grow, and restaurants are changing their taps constantly. There are no regular tap for any brewery. All the brewers are trying to get the regular tap, but it doesn't work like that. People are craving for new experiences, and they are waiting for new stuff from your brewery, and that's the reason why we launch a new beer every month,
Okay, every month.
pretty much.
Okay, we are reaching the end of my questions here. So what would it take you to bring you back to Finland? Like, what would you like to see in the system to say, okay, now I think that the system is mature enough for me to open a brewery in Finland?
Well, it would be pretty public thing to admit your mistakes.
In fact, let's do this in a different way. Let's do this facing at the camera and, like, send this message to some people, policymakers. Dear policymakers, what is it that you have to do better or change completely?
Dear policymakers,
Be very bold.
I am. I'm just.
Sorry, I'll be the serious
I'm a
looking
friendly
one.
bold guy. Dear policymaker, this is what you do. You take away those ridiculous taxes for alcohol, not completely, but you lower the reasonable level that beer industry and most specifically craft beer industry can grow. And why is that? That's actually making people more sophisticated drinkers, because it's not affecting the big guys. They can still sell their shit everywhere without you noticing anything, but it's affecting us small guys, those taxes. And at the same time you have ridiculous laws and restrictions for bars. You have restrictions for importing beer and doing all kind of business related to alcohol. It's just ridiculous the amounts of paperwork that needs to be done for very basic things to get beer from one place to another. So one thing is to give the freedom for brewers that they can actually sell beer out from their brewery, start a web store and so on. That's how it works in plenty of other countries, and it's working very well. It's not that they are selling those boozy lagers through the web stores. They're actually selling those beers that people are willing to buy, like beers infused with loads of espresso. So might as well try it.
So policymakers, you have it. You heard it from the bloody expert. So exactly. Get your shit together and hashtag let's bring Sori back. All right. Do you have any final advice? Because I know there's at least one person in this crowd who had at some point contemplated starting a microbrewery. What should they do? What should they not do? Some really basic but crucial advice.
Well, most of these things are actually very valid for people starting any kind of businesses. So never lose contact with the real thing, which is people. You are not, at the end of the day, you're not doing your thing for money or things. You are doing it for either yourself or the people around you. You are doing it for your loved ones, your family, your friends, and so on. So it's one of those things that easily you forget when you are going fast and doing fancy business is the people. So that's number one for me. What we have noticed, that we have been going so fast now that we have actually forgot that we have people working, and we are just been using them as assets. So now is actually the time to slow down a bit and talk to those people that what are your goals, how can I help with your goals, and also to be part of the whole thing, that we are there for our family and so on. And one thing is to realize that it's not so serious, it's just business. It's a fun roller coaster. You have your ups and downs, and most definitely there will be downs, but faster you go, higher you get, and when you're doing well, you are just doing the roller coaster higher up there. But it's just a ride, and at some day it will be over, so might as well enjoy the whole ride.
All right. So you heard it from the expert. Enjoy the ride. Thank you very much. All right, we're gonna have like a few questions from the crowd whilst we enjoy some beer. Is there any questions from the beer master? Who is? You're a bit too sober now because you've been driving now. So
Yeah, but they won't notice anything. I know that I will drive the walkway and turn the lights off.
that's the way. So, do we have any questions? Any at all?
What's the new flavor for next time?
The newest beer we actually launched this weekend will be Imperial Stout. It will be very well. It's aged in Chianti Classico barrels, so it will be very wine-like beer, if I may say. It's a collaboration with Vineyard in Tuscany. They send us some barrels, and we brew the beer to fit in those barrels. It's around 12% and a lot of fun.
What was the name? Sorry.
It origins to Tampere, where we started brewing as students. It's there is Sori sauna and Sori block, and if you have spent a night in Sori, you have been in jail in Tampere. So the only thing that is in Sori Square is the business students' clubhouse and the police station.
Nice and handy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
So we had some collaboration there. We created trunks and they picked them up.
It's a best business model.
Oh yeah.
You get a commission on every arrest. That would be.
No, we
good.
get some nice high fives.
Yeah, well, it's a start. It's a start.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions? What?
I do
Yep.
have one. You said you wanted to start your business in Finland because no one else was doing it, and you decided to start it in Estonia. And when you did the math in Excel, you realized that you would have basically zero demand. And then you discovered along the way that you had a lot of competitors or a lot of other people trying to start these breweries in Estonia. So you had zero demand what you thought was zero demand. A lot of competitors, you were starting in the market that you didn't want to start it in. So what did you know, or what did you believe back then that made you start the business? Why did you actually start it?
Well, main things were things like price per square meter for the lot we got. Here in Finland, we would pay roughly 10 to 15 euros per square meter for the same place, and we would be somewhere in rural Finland that takes us 1 hour or more to drive and 2 hours in traffic. Now we are just close to city center in Tallinn. It takes roughly 15 minutes if it's heavy traffic and 10 minutes without traffic. So it's so close by, and the price per square meter is 2.5. That's huge difference. And we found just a perfect place with our own wells. We wouldn't have that luxury here in Finland. Well, we can use tap water, but for beers you need very solid, good quality water, and you would need some water treatment probably. So very practical things.
Still cheaper to bring it in from Estonia.
Yeah, a lot. It costs around, for one pallet of beer, 54 boxes, around 2,000 bottles. It costs around 50 euros to take it across here. So it's nothing. And it's actually more expensive to move beer inside Finland. So a lot of costs are way less in Estonia. But at the same time, I think the one practical thing that came to us was that we can actually afford living there. Because if we would start our business here, it would require us to pay us at least 2,000 euros in salary. And people who live in Helsinki, you know that it is not much. You can't do anything with 2,000 euros a month. You can probably pay your rent, and then you go one time in a nightclub and you lost it all. But I'm raising 1,000 euros in salary. I can afford a fancy place of living. I drive taxi to work, and I go fine dining every week.
Why do you drive a taxi to work?
Uh,
Next question. So you have.
I have
saw
a
some-
crappy van.
Okay. I saw it. It's not that bad.
It's now fixed.
No. I saw some pictures of your brewery. It's an amazing location. Can one come and visit it?
Yeah, sure. It's we have plenty of visitors. We have companies visiting all the time, and yeah, if you have a company, make an excuse to come there. We can make it a business trip, and it will be a beer trip. But yeah, it's very easy to access, and it's a very interesting location because it's a closed old Soviet military area, and they used to do galvanized steel plates in the factory, and the building actually has those guards from that era still working. So only official language in that area is Russian, and we don't speak, any of us don't speak any Russian. So we have very handy sign language there. And in our neighbor, they have done stuff like nuclear submarines, cruise missiles. Well, that kind of crafted things.
Yeah, when you have all this military equipment, that's just what you need. Beer
Yeah.
factory next to it.
Yeah.
Just when you need precision and security.
Yeah. Well, it's most certainly one of the most interesting places you have seen the brewery in, and it's in a third floor, which is the number one rule to start a brewery: don't start it in a third floor. Don't start it in a third floor, unless it's a steel plate factory that actually works.
Okay. Is there any more questions?
Where were your first brews sold? Were they in Finland or?
We sold our first brews in Finnish restaurants, and they were produced in Terenpeli, where we actually bought the brew house and moved it to Tallinn. So we did all the sales by ourselves. We went to restaurants, we brought a couple bottles, or we just say that we are from Sori Brewing, you have probably heard of us. We have beer in our trunk, you want some. And that was how easy it was. We were old-fashioned sales guys, were going from restaurant to restaurant. Other brewers came in to us like, how in the hell could you sell to that chain restaurant? Easy. I had beer, I went there, and they bought it.
And you were cocky. That's a very bad Finnish behavior, saying you probably have heard of us. You should. That's not how it works.
It's very bad Finnish behavior to be a sales guy.
You know how it's supposed to be done. Like,
Yeah.
I have some beer. This is not very good, actually. It's below average. I don't think you want to buy it, but anyway, I'm leaving.
Yeah, and
That's how you sell them.
and it says on your website which you are not advertising.
Yeah. And then you will have the briefly in English part as well.
Yeah, written like fucked up English like ours.
We do beer. Buy it. It's great. All right. I think that was the last question. Thank you very much for coming and getting us this great beer, man.
Thank you.